There are a lot of ways to make drawings. I've seen those videos on YouTube where somebody has a picture of a cat, or they're not even looking at a picture of a cat, and they grab a Sharpie and they somehow magically conjure up this perfect drawing with no erasure, no sketching, nothing, like magic. That's not how drawing works for most people. Here's a method that I use, and I have found it to be really successful with a lot of people in middle school, and I call it the 3-step drawing method. Let's check it out. The first step is just to identify basic shapes. Things like rectangles and circles and triangles. You know, maybe even some that are a little more irregular. The first shape that stands out to me is her body is sort of a long rectangle. Up this high. One. A little more than twice as long as it is tall. So if it's that tall. Alright, so she's probably about yay long. Maybe a little more than you think. I'm looking at her legs, and I see that she has 4 legs. And often people will say, okay, this is sort of a rectangle, and they'll just draw 4 rectangles that stick out, even though that's not really what you see. Here's a trick that's helpful for me. I think about these 2 legs together as a 5-sided shape. Sort of like this. These in the back, I actually see sort of a rectangle. There we go. So even as I get started, before I've taken a lot of time and spent a lot of, energy deciding just how these legs are shaped, the very first thing I want to do is make sure I have them in the right place and that they're the right size. Does it look like a cat? Not really. That's okay, we're getting there. Trust the process. And then her skull is the real nice circle. And then her muzzle, kind of a rectangle. Don't forget her ear. All right, and then her tail. Notice that the tip of her tail is significantly higher than her ear. Yep, looks good. There's another shape coming off of it. To create now the illusion that there's more than a block of whatever this is here, I'm going to cut out even this shape. We call this negative space. The empty areas between, behind, underneath other objects in our drawing. There's some negative space back here as well. I'm going to cut that out now. The next step here for her neck is to go in and refine these sort of shapes. Another. All right, they're super basic right now. It goes out this way. Doesn't really look like a cat. It seems to me to be pretty even. Similar to the one in the back. Fine for the legs. Good. Better. Now we're going to go in. We're going to make our shapes better. As I look at her little forehead and back onto her neck and whatnot, I see a little bit softer of a change from where it becomes her forehead to her ear, not quite so abrupt. It goes back. And then this kind of makes a nice curve. That's her fur connecting everything. All right, and then her back actually angles up a little bit. Right, it's not that flat line of the rectangle. It's starting to curve. As I go, as I refine my shapes, I often kind of take out lines I don't need anymore to make things a little easier to see. Her tail, I'm going to add some dimension, add some depth here. And as I do so, I'm noticing that the base of the tail is wider than the tip of the tail, so I'm going to let this come down, get wider there. Back here, there's a nice curve. And here is, it's pretty amazing what's going to happen when I make one line. This is Kitty's right hind leg. You see that line? It goes like this, meets here, and curves down. And we have just taken the front of that weird looking rectangle triangle thing and made it a cat leg. All right, and then back here is her left hind leg. Creating that curve. Like so. Beginning to be more of a cat, less of a, I don't even know what. And here, her little belly has a nice curve. And that line actually comes down and overlaps this, separating this shape and making it appear to be behind. So it's her left front leg. We can see her little elbow. So those basic shapes, those rectangles and things, they are sort of like an armature. They're like the scaffold. They tell me where to put my more realistic lines. So I'm not taking a whole lot of time really getting all these curves just right, only to realize they're in the wrong place or they're not the right size, which is very frustrating. So our cat looks a lot like a cat now, but she's missing some things. How about details? Step 3, we're going to create some details. When we do so, we're actually going to go all the way back again and start with our basic shapes. For her ear, I'm actually going to make it a little bit larger, I think. And inside her ear, I see sort of an L. Her eye. A lot of times we want to put the eye maybe here, but if I'm really looking, it kind of comes straight back from the nose. And it has a circle, but then it's kind of, the eyelid creates almost a triangle shape around the eye. And the nose, sort of a triangle, but it has these little curves. So again, going in, looking at those basic shapes, a circle and a triangle. But then going and refining them even just a little bit more. What I want to do is really be looking at what are the shapes actually doing? Where are the lines actually happening? Rather than saying, oh yes, I know what a cat looks like. Well, I do, but I'm going to have a lot more success if I'm looking at a picture and I'm breaking it down step by step, starting with basic shapes, then refining my shapes, and using basic shapes again to make my details.